Good evening. For years, the economic relationship between India and the United States has been a story of immense opportunity shadowed by persistent friction. But in the last few weeks, that friction has ignited into a full blown economic confrontation. What was once a trade war of targeted tariffs has escalated dramatically, leaving industries on both sides bracing for impact. Tonight, let's cut through the noise and look at the hard numbers and the rapid sequence of events that have brought us to this critical juncture in August 2025. The current crisis didn't begin overnight, but its most acute phase started just last month. On July 31st, 2025, the Trump administration announced its intent to impose a sweeping 25% tariff on nearly all Indian goods. The justification given was twofold: America's long-standing complaints about India's high tariffs, and a new, more pointed accusation that India's continued purchase of discounted crude oil from Russia was undermining international sanctions and, in the words of the White House, fueling the war machine. That 25% tariff went into effect just 3 days ago on August 7th. For a moment, there was a sliver of hope that this would be the extent of the action, a severe but manageable blow. That hope was short-lived. On August 6th, citing a national emergency linked to India's energy trade, the White House issued a second executive order, doubling down on its pressure campaign. It announced an additional 25% penalty tariff, bringing the total combined tariff rate on Indian goods to a staggering 50%. This second wave is set to take effect in just 17 days on August 27th. Let's be clear about what these numbers mean. The United States is India's largest export market. In the last fiscal year, ending in March 2025, India exported goods worth $86.5 billion to the US. Now that entire trading relationship is in jeopardy. Analysts from the Global Trade Research Initiative project that a sustained 50% tariff could slash India's exports to the US by 40% to 50%. That's a potential loss of over $40 billion in annual trade. The impact is not uniform. While essential goods like pharmaceuticals, key electronic components, and critical minerals have been exempted for now, the tariffs are a direct hit on India's most labor-intensive sectors. These are the industries that employ millions of people. Consider the textile and apparel industry. For knitted apparel, the existing U.S. tariff was already 13.9%. With the new levies, that rate will skyrocket to an uncompetitive 63.9%. For woven apparel, it jumps from 10.3% to 60.3%. Our competitors in Bangladesh and Vietnam face tariffs that are less than half of that. Look at gems and jewelry, a sector that exported $10 billion worth of goods to the US last year. The tariff rate is set to leap from just over 2% to 52.1%. Exporters are already calling this a doomsday scenario, actively exploring moving manufacturing bases to places like Dubai to survive. The story is the same for our seafood industry, which sends nearly a third of its shrimp exports to the US. They will go from paying zero tariff to a 50% tariff. Our competitors in Ecuador and Indonesia will be paying rates of 10% and 19% respectively. And our auto components sector, which has a $7 billion export market in the US, now also faces a crippling 50% duty. India's response has been firm. The Ministry of External Affairs has labeled the US actions as unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. Prime Minister Modi has stated unequivocally that India will never compromise on the interests of its farmers, and that the country is ready to pay a heavy price to protect its sovereignty and economic security. The White House, meanwhile, insists this is a matter of national security, directly linking the tariffs to India's oil imports from Russia, which stood at about 1.75 million barrels per day in the first half of this year. President Trump has ruled out any further trade negotiations until we get it resolved. So here we are in a standoff. The numbers tell a stark story of economic warfare. A 50% tariff wall is not a negotiating tactic. It is an attempt to force a fundamental shift in policy. For India, the challenge is immense: how to protect its key export industries and the millions of jobs they support while navigating immense geopolitical pressure and standing firm on its right to make independent policy decisions that serve its own national interest. The coming weeks will be a true test of our economic resilience and our diplomatic resolve. Thank you.